Okay, we do have the slide deck, which is awesome. And we will get through the panel. So thank you so much, Julie, for joining us. As we have questions, what I probably will do, just to keep us on track, is send them to team at Mosaic and then relay that answer back to
Perfect.
the folks here, because we're going to get some insights on actually how to perform well in these roles and how to apply and stand out through that application, especially right now because everything is digital, virtual, whatever. So we're seeing a lot of folks feel that it's hard to differentiate themselves in the application because there's so many different people. There's no geographic borders right now, right? We're able, if you're working in a different area, you can apply for a job there because it's remote. So we're seeing people struggle with differentiating themselves. So we're going to give some insights on that and ask you any questions that we have as we go through. So thank you for that. Great. So I'm going to go ahead and move you off the panel. Julie, thank you so much for joining us. And we will be bringing in some further insights. We really want to thank you for this and for the program that you're coordinating. It's important for our students and it's important for our economy. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Noah.
Insights. Thank you. I'm going to just go ahead and rate you all. Awesome. And do we still have Alyssa? We do have Alyssa. Great. And I'm going to unmute Alyssa. Alyssa, can we do a quick test of your mic?
Absolutely.
Awesome. You sound great. I can hear you. All righty. So let's get started with the panel portion of the day. Excited for that. So as I mentioned, we've got Alyssa Boucher from Quicken Loans. We've got Marianne from Prospect, and we've got Maddie Wibbs from BlackBerry. So very excited for you all to join us. Thank you, each of you, for your insights and for taking some time today to talk to the many students that we've got on the line, professionals and faculty members. So very excited that you could join us, and thank you so much for your time. If we want to go around the panel and just introduce what each company does and what you all work on, Maddie, we'll start with you first if you want to unmute and take us away.
Awesome. Thank you for inviting me today. I really appreciate it. As Noah said, my name is Maddie Wibbs. I am the talent acquisition lead for our university and colleges program at BlackBerry. So we do all of the hiring each term for students that come into our community.
Awesome. And Marianne, if you want to unmute and give some insights.
Sure. Hi, everyone. Marianne Bulger. I am the founder and CEO of Prospect. Prospect is the largest startup career hub in Canada, focused on connecting anyone, students, as well as any job seeker, to jobs available at amazing tech startups across the country.
Awesome. Thanks, Marianne. And Alyssa, if you would like to share.
Absolutely. Hi, guys. My name's Alyssa Boucher. I'm the University Relations Manager for Rock Central. As Noah mentioned, we are really the support services arm to the Rock family of companies. So over in Windsor, our presence is right down on Chatham Street with Rocket Innovation Studios and Edison Financial.
Great. Thank you and welcome. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the students, faculty, staff, everybody and their brother who's here today. Really excited that you could join us. So I'm going to kick us off with thank you to each of the attendees that provided some questions in the registration. We've got some really great places to start on where you all have some questions. So we want to be able to start with that. Again, I kind of alluded to this, but here we are. You know, it's COVID-19. We're in the middle of a pandemic. People are still trying to get jobs. We have some economic issues that we're working out as a country and with our American partners right near us. So what can students do? You know, what is to differentiate themselves? There's roles available, there's less roles perhaps available, but in a resume, in an application, what are students able to do, especially right now, to differentiate themselves and to stand out? We'll start with our recruiters. Maddie, if you want to give the first insights to that question.
Yeah, and I think my number one suggestion would be right now to really make sure that you're tailoring your resume to match the job specifically. Because there is such an influx of candidates right now, you really want to make sure that the resume you're submitting touches on all the points it can to match the job that you're applying for. And specifically the unique things about that job. If you have those unique skill sets, really make sure that you're highlighting those in your resume. Would be my number one tip.
And Alyssa, what are some of the things that you're seeing over at Rock Central that would help people if they replicated? What are some things that are not really helping people in terms of their applications, in your opinion?
I would say just how you're using this time right now. We understand a lot of offers unfortunately got rescinded, or people are just in kind of the state of unknown. But for example, if you're a technologist, right, what a great time to be on GitHub and working on these different projects and sprucing up your skills. What a great time to take on a new language and start practicing. If you're more on the business, what a great time to write a blog and practice some work about just what's going on and different ways to express yourself. So I really think a lot of the interview questions that you'll start to see will come down to, so how did you spend summer 2020? We understand offers might have been rescinded or things might not have gone as planned, but how did you react to that? What did you still do to make yourself better?
Great insights. And Marianne, in the companies that you're supporting and the startups that you're supporting and the students that you see come in through your platform, what are some of the things that you're seeing that are really standout in your opinion?
Thanks, Noah. I love what Alyssa and Maddie shared. I think what I'll tie in there is that it is really important at this time to show your human side. It's also really important to tell your story. It's harder to do that online than it was in person once you got an interview. And so I think it's really important to consider all the tools at your disposal to share what you are about, what your experience might be. And that goes beyond just LinkedIn or other social media platforms. Consider building a personal website to showcase who you are, not just the places you've worked in the past or things you've worked on, but also some of your hobbies and other interesting skills. And I'll echo what Maddie said, is really important to even consider some of the jobs that you're applying for and the language they're using to describe some of the skills that might match, and thinking about how you are actually positioning yourself online to match those common skills and terms.
Thanks for those insights, Marianne. And again, you're seeing a common theme here, folks, right? We need to, and I'm sure if Joanna Beneto's on or anybody from our co-op office down at the University of Windsor, I have them all, everybody muted, but I'm sure I could just hear them in the back of my head screaming, tailor the resume to the job. I mean, that's a day one thing that they tell you. And, now your recruiters are telling you the same thing. So, it's good that it matches there. So we're seeing a lot of questions about actually finding these kinds of remote work opportunities and finding solid. I've saw this question a lot in the registration form. How do you find an opportunity, whether it's remotely, but particularly remotely, I think, how do you know it's legit, for lack of a better word, and I think Marianne will have some good insights to this. So I'm going to let her take this question first, considering she built a platform to do this, and give some insights on that platform, Marianne, and how things are vetted and, how you would encourage students to really use this. Go ahead.
Okay, good question. Yeah, when we first built Prospect, and for context, I know I mentioned this, but Prospect is a fully aggregated job board of the entire Canadian tech startup industry. So we pull jobs available at vetted Canadian tech startups and list all those opportunities in one searchable, sortable location. The reason I did it is because it's a full-time job to look for a job, and it shouldn't be. Really, we should be making it easier in our country and amongst our companies to build tools for students and any job seekers to stay on top of the opportunities available and access those opportunities and apply for them. And so I think when it comes down to figuring out which jobs are legit or not, it has to do with the research you're going to do on those companies. I mean, it does have to do with finding great job boards that are vetting companies and ensuring that these jobs match the types of work you're looking for. If you are working in finance and you want to find a finance job, there are often, themed job boards out there. What we built during COVID is a resource called the Help List. You can find it at thehelplist.ca. You can add your name to that list publicly if you're looking for work, and companies can reach out to you directly with opportunities that they think might match your profile. But we realize that, especially being a student, you're not always getting companies knocking down your door. And so what we've done is, on that job board, we've actually created, or on the help list, we've actually created a list of our curated job boards, including Prospect, but all sorts of other amazing job boards across Canada for those jobs. What I do recommend, to round this out, what I do recommend for anyone who might be looking is to really think about, it's not just about landing a job, but it's about landing a job that you'd like with a team that you like. I think it's important to love what you do and love who you do it with. And so making sure to do the research. If you find a job available at a company, check them out online, see if they talk about their culture online and what their team is all about. Definitely check out their Glassdoor rating, although take all of that with a grain of salt. There's always begrudged ex-employee comments on there, but do your research and don't hesitate to ask those questions when you enter the interview stage as well, to learn a little bit more about what makes that not only a great company, but a great place.
Awesome. And thanks for those insights. I think what's important there, and I want to take this and spin that off now to our recruiters, Maddie and Alyssa. I want, finding, there's research that you do in your resume to make sure that your resume is matching the job itself, but make sure that your interests and your skills match the company that you want to work with too. I think like finding, there's a thing, at BlackBerry, I'll share some of this because I work for BlackBerry, obviously. The big push is that we're about to be the world's largest cybersecurity company. And if you don't believe that, that's not, that maybe this isn't the right place for you. So getting that understanding of the corporate culture, tailoring that in your application and resume, and that's how you kind of vet the job too, to make sure that the job is actually going to be something that you want to do. There, you spend so much time working that you don't want it to be something that you hate doing. Maddie, do you have any insights again on that, making sure that your interests, your skills, all that stuff aligns with the job and the company itself? I know that's something we get at BlackBerry a lot. So
exactly. I talk about it all the time, but it's that passion piece, and that has to match. And as a recruiter, it is something that I look for, and it's something that does stand out on a resume. Because you don't, like Marianne said, I don't just want you to do the job. I want you to love the job that you do and have interest in it. So one thing that does stand out on resumes are those passion projects, right? Like I'm so interested in cybersecurity that I built this app on my own, or I did a project or research, or I took this course or attended sessions like these. Whatever you're doing that really sets you apart or shows that you're interested stands out a ton. Like that's my favorite thing to read on resumes or in cover letters, is kind of the human element of you. So I'm pretty much echoing and just adding on to what you and Marianne have both said, but I totally agree.
And Alyssa, from a Rock Central / Quicken Loan / Rocket Innovation Studio perspective, what are some of the great passion pieces that you've seen? And what advice do you have to making sure that students are vetting their application and their resume tailored really with the organization itself and the role and the team that they're going to work in line with the strategic priority? I know you've talked about this before at our Canadian Undergraduate Computer Science Conference. You said, if you're not passionate about getting people into houses because you're America's largest mortgage lender in Quicken Loans, maybe this isn't the right fit for you. But what insights do you have there?
Absolutely. And I think you even hit on a piece of the fact that we represent a family of companies, right? You have to do a little bit of research just to understand what you're actually applying for in the first place, right? So definitely the research piece. I would say Google News, the tab of Google, you're in University of Windsor, right? First thing that pops up in the news section right now is that they're rebranding potential.
Oh, Alyssa, I think we lost you. Oh, does anybody hear? Do you hear Alyssa? I don't hear her. Alyssa, I think we lost you. Perhaps your internet cut out. If you're able to join us again, please feel free. Let me unmute. Alyssa, do we have you? No, I think we lost Alyssa, folks. Sorry about that. And to lose her mid-sentence when she was just saying some really great insights too is frustrating. Alyssa, if you're able to rejoin us, please send me a message. But anyway, sorry about that, folks. But I think what she was really harping on was the fact, there's a passion piece in there, and then there's alignment to strategic priorities of the organization in there that you really need to consider and make sure that you're referencing somehow in your in your resume, in your cover letter, in your application. If you're not passionate about what the company is doing, then this isn't going to be a good fit for you. Now, something that we've been talking about too is the importance of skills and the skill building, and taking the time right now to you know you may have some extra time, so you might be able to use that to build your skills. And there's some students had just asked me, finished school 2019, have no industrial experience. What should you include in the resume? And then what skills should I be working on? And I think we have Alyssa back. Alyssa, can you hear us?
I sure can. Sorry.
Okay, great. Alyssa, thank you. And I would just kind of filled the gap on what you were saying there about that passion piece and aligning with that. Did you have anything else you wanted to add before I cut you? We lost you there?
Nope, you got it.
Okay. Great. I'll let you get the first answer to this next question then, because this is a good one. So again, I saw it and it's gone right now, relating to the skill building. But again, what are some resources, I guess is what I should be saying. If you have limited industrial experience, so limited time in industry, where should we be going to get some skill building activity? What's going to look good? I have a feeling that it's going to be more so, aligning with the job that you want. Make sure you have those skills. If you don't have those skills, find some ways to get those skills. But Alyssa, any resources that you have or things that students should be really advertising on their resume? Go ahead.
Yep, I know I mentioned GitHub earlier. That is such a big one, especially in the tech industry, to be able to just show off what you can actually do, not just say, hey, I code in C#, but here's examples of me coding in C#. So I can't push like the portfolio, the GitHub enough. I would also just say, use LinkedIn as a true networking tool. I understand with LinkedIn and with job searching, the end goal is a job. We totally understand that, but there are so many network pieces out there right now, because at the end of the day, a data analyst at Prospect, at Quicken Loans, at BlackBerry, they all look different. So do this research right now to say, hey, can I speak to a business analyst at BlackBerry and see what they're doing, or analyst over at RIS? Really use that networking piece too, so you can actually start to understand, hey, data analyst might be a hot job title, but do I actually want to spend all day in Excel? Or do I want to spend it coding in R? Or it just looks different for each company. So really build your skills, I would say, but also just understand what company utilizes those skills in different jobs.
Mm-hmm. That's a really good piece. And I think I'm seeing the heads nod, like that aspect of, can I talk to a data scientist at BlackBerry? Can I talk to somebody at wherever? That's something I haven't really considered. Actually learn what they're doing and see if you actually like it. Like, what's the point if you don't know what's going on? I saw a question that just came in that I really like, because it's kind of on the line of what we were just saying, but they want to ask, can I add volunteer experience in my resume? I gave some support to the projects in my friend's startup. I did this for 1 year. Can I add this for my resume? Who wants to take that one? Maddie, Marianne? Maddie, go ahead. I saw your hand go up first.
Well, just yes, and yes.
Right?
Do not discount any experience just because it is volunteer experience. Like, whether you are paid or not, you're still learning, you're hands-on, you're in. Always include that type of experience, especially if it's lining up with the job that you want. Yes, include it.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. And Marianne, you got some insights there, I can see.
Yeah, I just wanted to echo that. I think when I first came out of school, no one wanted to hire me. So I did a bunch of volunteer work related to my profession, but I didn't categorize it as my volunteer work on my resume. I categorized it as work. Just because I wasn't getting paid for it didn't mean that it wasn't valuable work and experience. And that actually gave me the leg up. So one thing I wanted to say, like pertaining to this question, is like, go and practice your skills, volunteer your time. Obviously, make sure you're not being taken advantage of. Like, make sure that the work that you're doing is aligned and that you're, and that you are taking care of number one as well. But go and practice your skills and donate your time and get that experience. Because I see there's this question here about, it's the catch-22. People, employers want you to have 2 years experience in order to hire you, and you need 2 years experience in order to get hired, and you're trapped. So go and get that experience. There's no one stopping you from building those products and trying out these different positions and putting your skills to practice. I also want to echo on the skills front. Right now, there are so many incredible free webinars, but also free courses online that you can take. There's also some incredible scholarship programs for different coding and digital skills academies. One that stands out is that Lighthouse Labs is offering all of their programs online right now, and they have a $500,000 scholarship fund for anyone who wants to apply to level up some of their digital skills. So worth checking out what's going on. We actually did create a list for this on the help list. It's all free. So if you're curious about the discounts and services and programs available, you can check it out.
Awesome. And folks, if you take a look at the chat, I did share the help list and prospect as well. So to check those out today, right? That's a great way for you to get involved. I'm seeing a good question. Again, this is along the lines, I'm going to answer this question. Actually, I'll answer my own question. Should you include part-time work experience as well, like being a cashier at a store? Absolutely. So for context about me, I used to work in a grocery store. I worked there for 5 years. I worked at Sobeys in Amherstburg. Shout out to Sobeys. Before working there, I was not super social, so being in that space built up that customer service skills, the communication skills, collaboration skills, all that stuff is transferable into whatever job you're going to work at. So mention that, right? No matter what it is, mention it. It's relevant. Take the relevant pieces. I mean, if you're mopping floors, that's not necessarily what you want to talk about, but you want to talk about managing multiple priorities. You got to mop that floor, and somebody needs help finding something at the different aisle of the store. So, managing all that different multiple priorities. Talk about that transferable, skill there. But Alyssa, I see you just unmuted. Do you have something that you wanted to add?
Yes, I want to just clap emoji. I cannot say enough, because my least favorite interview answer is, because similar to you, I was a waitress at Buddy's Pizza. That's what I used to do. And at first I would explain it as, well, I was just a waitress. Mm-hmm. I was just a golf caddy. I was just this. And right then and there, you are taking away any of those soft skills that you just talked about, the time management, the perseverance, conflict resolution, right? All these things that come up. So definitely do not downplay that experience whatsoever.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Great insights, folks. Thank you for that. Now, I want to move into a discussion kind of about remote work, since that's, the title of the panel. But I want to hear what each of your organizations are doing to support students in remote work. And because that's needed right now, and we're seeing such a huge transition into that. We're seeing Shopify is, saying you don't have to return to the office, you can work remotely for, the foreseeable future. Facebook, Twitter as well. Some other companies are doing a hybrid model, and other companies are saying, no, we'd like you in person because, you generate ideas better. It's easier to do collaboration there. So what are particularly, let's talk about students, because that's the majority of our audience here. We're talking about students. So what is your organization doing to support students in remote work? And how can our students on the line today connect with those remote work opportunities? Because we're thinking that probably in the fall, we are going to be working remotely too. And in the summer right now, definitely. So Maddie, if we want to start with you, go ahead and say, what's BlackBerry been doing to support remote work?
Yeah, so we moved our entire summer term to be a work from home term. So we've sent out equipment to all of our students, got them connected to our secure network. And it's been a learning experience, because it's something we've never done before. We have always been big in-office people, but it's been really, really neat finding different ways to connect and do things. We have our BlackBerry social committee, which I always run for the students, by the students, but they've done virtual events, which is really cool. And because we're not limited to our office location, we've included our Canada and US students. Now all of our students get to meet each other no matter what country they're working in. And I just think that's so cool. They're doing just venting half hours where they just all talk, or they're doing virtual bingo, or just games on the app games, very cool. So it's really neat seeing what's coming out of it. What else online learning opportunities for our employees too. So we're hosting virtual learning sessions, virtual like yoga and things like that too, like their wellness sessions. So it's been really neat for pivoting so quickly into this remote life. It's so neat to see what's coming out of it and how innovative companies are being. I'm loving seeing everything on LinkedIn.
Awesome. And I'm going to go ahead and plug BlackBerry Bootcamp here. It's another thing that BlackBerry is doing to support remote learning. I'm running it with Neelam Sandhu, Vice President, Business Operations and Strategic Accounts in the Office of the CEO at BlackBerry. She's been able to bring us some really amazing speakers who we normally wouldn't be able to hear from because they'd be all over the world. So, we got them trapped by coming in virtually and providing that kind of upskilling opportunity. And that's another thing you can mention in your application. I attended every single BlackBerry Bootcamp session. And spoiler alert, I'm going to be giving out certificates for that in coordination with Dr. Copty's class for those University of Windsor students who were able to attend that and do the, homework component for it. And that's yet another thing you're able to talk about that you did during that COVID time. Alyssa, I want to hear from you on Rock Central. I know you had a lot of students that you put remotely, like hundreds and hundreds, like 600 or something ridiculous like that. Maybe I'm just throwing that number out there. Share some insights. I know you're very busy with it, so go ahead.
Absolutely. No, you're correct. We were able to still bring on about 600 interns this year, which was absolutely incredible. But rather than being in our core downtown Detroit office, they're working from wherever home is for them instead. With our Windsor office being built out, we did only have 3 interns actually even in Windsor, but again, I think to Maggie's point earlier, now they have a lot more access, even though it is a 5-minute drive over the bridge. They do have that access more to what we are doing over here in the US, which I think is amazing. I think we wish we could have done more, right? Normally in the summer, we're closer to about 750 interns, but just due to everyone needing laptops, right? There's actual laptop shortages, which is crazy to think about. But yeah, we were able to get all of our interns the technology they need, right? The laptops, the monitors, if need be, the headsets, whatever. So yeah, we were really, really excited. I think to Maddie's point, it was a quick turnaround. This was not what we were planning back in September, back in January. I think even until March, we hadn't really made the decision. So I'm very happy with how it all turned out. For us, realistically, this probably will continue into fall for our interns, just until we figure out what we're doing when it comes to remote work. As of right now, as a company, 90% of us are still working from home. So we haven't even really started our first phase back into the office. So we probably foresee this continuing on for us, at least for the rest of 2020.
Awesome. Great insights there. Marianne, you've already kind of alluded to what Prospect is doing to support with the help list, and your platform as it is already inherently supports that. But what else, that if there is anything else that you wanted to mention, should we plug here?
Yeah, I think I've mentioned everything. We don't we don't differentiate on the job board itself or on the help list itself between student and non-student talent. We also welcome applicants from around the world, which is pretty spectacular. I think when you're considering, the remote opportunities right now, it is really important to think bigger than you can ever imagine geographically. I mean, in this moment, you have an opportunity to work remotely for a company that could be anywhere in Canada and actually, in fact, perhaps even anywhere in the world, because everyone is being forced into that remote workspace. Specifically in the tech industry, I think we already know that we're going to see a hybrid model and a ton of opportunities for people to work remotely no matter what. And so I think that's one amazing opportunity right now in this market, and especially in this job seeking market, is that previously, perhaps if you were based in the Windsor-Essex area, a company in Calgary might not have hired you, but right now everyone is open to the opportunity, and that could become a legacy opportunity long term.
Mm-hmm. Marianne, do you want to come work for the Windsor-Essex Economic Development Corporation? Because you gave me a perfect segue into a piece that they really wanted me to mention and that we really need to mention, working from home from Windsor. So what does that look like? Folks that live in Windsor, such as myself, there's some really great opportunities. Now in Windsor, you can be connected to anybody else, right? So when we think about Windsor, we think about our quality of life, having access to the river, the great water, that community feel has been a big one. The low cost of living has been big as well, right? So we're not seeing, you don't have to pay that Silicon Valley wage to live in California, even to live in Toronto in some cases. It's very expensive. It's not, it's not cheap at all. And again, we have some great short commute times, access to that Detroit market to be able to work with Alyssa and the great team over at Quicken Loans and Rock Central and the entire Rock family of companies who have now expanded into Windsor as well, showing that kind of foreign direct investment and nearshoring, that really great stuff. We like to see investment in our community. And we can connect to folks like BlackBerry in Waterloo, all from one central place. So we're really excited about that. And I mean, space-wise, we have that room to grow, right? So you have the space to keep your social distance even. So it's, that's kind of more joke there, but it really is. So we've got some great insights, and I'm happy to share too. This is another spoiler alert for people on the panel. The Windsor-Essex Economic Development Corporation, in line with WEtech Alliance and Workforce Windsor-Essex, is going to be starting a remote work campaign very shortly. That aligns with, if you're going to work remotely, do it from Windsor. This is kind of a mini kickoff for that series of blog posts and resources from some leaders at Shopify and formerly with IBM as well, are going to give their insights to how they've actually built their whole careers by working in Windsor and doing it remotely. And our friends at Workforce Windsor-Essex have some tools available that they're going to be releasing very shortly, hopefully in July, that helps you do salary comparisons. And again, this all focuses back on doing your research on the company, doing your research on the role and where you want to live. So there's amazing opportunities and resources to help you do that. We're very excited to be able to offer it. So getting back to some questions I have seen pull in, there's some concern about access to these roles and having these different roles. With everything being remote, it's kind of hard and unpredictable to say if there's going to be postings open, let's say in fall, because a lot of our students are doing job competition for fall to do internships and work remotely or to do anything to, continue on that experiential learning journey. There's worries about a recession. There's worries about this economic fallout that we're having because of this coronavirus. What can students do to try to, future-proof themselves maybe, and be able to still achieve these roles, but do them? And, what insights do you have to offer with companies that you work with in terms of, there's a lot of concern that that there's roles that are not going to be available, or that companies are going to start shutting down, all that stressful stuff. Any kind of word of advice or motivation that you can give to say that yes, there's still going to be jobs open, and yes, there's still going to be a need for students. And in that, because many feel too, being a student myself, you can even feel this, that students are going to be the first people left behind when we start canceling roles and closing things down, if that ever happens. So what kind of word of motivation or uplifting, since I just killed the mood, insights can you give? Alyssa, if you want to start us off with what Rock Central is thinking in that regard.
Yeah, I would just say take a look at the industries that are still doing well, right? That are up and running. For us, the housing market is actually booming right now. We are breaking records month by month over here in the US when it comes to mortgages, because the housing is still there. You want to talk about the food industry. Now, physically being in a restaurant isn't necessarily, but Uber Eats, right? Grubhub, DoorDash, those are companies that are doing super well because people still want to eat out, just in different ways. So take a look at industries that are still doing well and are still selling, because most likely that is who is going to still have jobs available in the fall, and not so much these companies that are struggling right now. So I would just recommend taking a look at the industry.
Mm-hmm. Maddie, some insights that you've got there.
Yeah, I completely agree with what Alyssa said too. Like, this is it will change the job market, but I think you're going to see new types of jobs available. Like we heard about at the beginning of this panel before we got started, 1,600 jobs that hiring for to help these smaller companies. So I believe that while the market is going to change, there will be a different type of job available. And echoing what Alyssa said, look for those companies that are doing well right now. Like housing, like I'm going to say cybersecurity. I'm plugging BlackBerry right now. Like, everyone's working remotely. There's so many more people, so many more opportunities for vulnerabilities. Cybersecurity companies are doing well. But I think another thing is that this obviously a lot of people trying to figure out how to adjust. Just in general, I'm not speaking just on a BlackBerry scale, but just don't lose hope that more jobs may come available later on for fall. I think companies are still in a big transition phase, so they're a bit behind where they normally would be in their hiring, but I don't think they won't get there. It's just timing's a bit different right now because we're trying to figure out this new normal.
Mm-hmm. For sure. And Marianne, have you seen maybe a spike in roles even on your jobs board, especially for new startups? We're seeing, there's a saying that necessity is the mother of invention. So we're seeing a lot of startups prop up because of COVID-19 and the impacts for there. So what are you seeing in terms of future prospects? And that wasn't an intended pun, but we just did it. And what are we seeing in terms of the platform? What are some of the things that you think are some future trends and that would uplift students?
Well, I should say first that the tech startup community was not insulated from the effects of COVID. We did see a massive drop in the number of jobs available, particularly in April. I think it was about 35% decline in the average jobs available in the market. But what's interesting is we're starting to see that climb back up again, because I think, echoing what Maddie said, it's taking time for companies to figure out not only what it means to work remotely, but also what we found in surveying the tech community in Canada is that over 36% of Canadian businesses are actually pivoting some of their business activities. So that means they have to sit down for a second and think, what does this mean for the future of our business? What do we need to build? And then they have to say, who do we need to build it? So it is taking time, but we're starting to see that uptick in jobs available. It's also really important to emphasize that prior to COVID, we were in a talent shortage in this country, and we are still in a talent shortage, particularly for those digital and technical skills. Although there is this reshuffling of the deck, there was some layoffs, and obviously companies are rethinking this. Come the fall, and even perhaps sooner, we're going to start to see a uptick in jobs that are going to be available remotely. So don't lose hope thinking this is all doom and gloom, especially for tech companies where all the work is done through computers. It means that there is so much more flexibility for you to land a job in that space. And again, I want to echo what Maddie said about the mosaic opportunities with e-commerce. I'm hearing from a lot of different coding schools across the country that perhaps e-commerce and skills and being able to digitize businesses, like traditionally brick and mortar businesses, is going to be one of the future skills in terms of digital education. And so when I was actually really excited when I was hearing that pitch earlier about this opportunity, because this is something that is not only seemingly a great job opportunity, but also potentially something that could be the catalyst for your future career. There's also another initiative that I would love to plug because it's really cool. It's called Code for Canada, where you can apply to get a job to help government workers and public servants digitize Canadian government services. And although those opportunities are in Ottawa in the fall right now, this is what they're saying, I believe that they're going to be online, and this could be a really interesting opportunity to work with the federal and provincial governments where you wouldn't have been able to before. And I know they just opened those applications this week, so just check out their website.
I just sent the website in the chat there to all participants, so do check that out. And like you said, I mean, yeah, they say it's going to be in Ottawa now, but no way, right? Like we've got, folks, this is just I know I'm not an epidemiologist at all, but we're going to see until we have a vaccine, and it's really, not safe to be trying to shove everybody into an office and having people travel all over the place. So, this is going to be reality for a little bit. People working from home, people dealing with their home internet, people dealing with not having the ease of an IT team right on there in the same floor as them. So, I really think the opportunities are focusing on remote work, and so do the powers that be in our region, right? Like there's a huge push to go remote and enable people to go remote. So we want to be able to do that. So awesome. As we're approaching the end of the session here, I want to go ahead and I'm seeing questions that so you get a lot of resumes, and are there tools happening that you know, is there a way that you put your resume that is accepted into a tool better that maybe the company has, so that way, you know, there's not some kind of automatic filtering system? And I'm gonna let Maddie take this one first because I kind of know her answer, and it'll be, so if you're getting hundreds of applications into a role, is a human person or a group of human people looking at every single one, or is a tool, magic tool, filtering them away so they can't be seen? Maddie, I know what your answer is going to be, so please share it.
Yeah, so I think every company is a little bit different in how and what they use in terms of tools, but at BlackBerry, we don't use a tool that filters anything out. So it is our campus team that's reading, like my eyes reading through your resumes, and my team looking through the resumes, looking for the skill set that matches. So we do not use a tool to do. There are those that do exist, and they are out there. Not here, not on my end.
Not on, yeah. So that means when you apply to every single role at BlackBerry, Maddie has to read your application like 400 times. So, this again focuses back to ensuring that you are applying to a role if you're passionate about it, if it's something that would be a good fit for you, and not just applying to every role because they're there, because that's not going to pick up traction either, right? So you're actually going to be spending more time than you should be in doing that. Alyssa, do you want to give some insights on that idea of, is there a tool at large determining most of this, and then how does the recruiter actually evaluate everyone that they have the skill that they're saying they have? Like, what hints do you look for to show that off?
Absolutely. So very similar to you guys over at BlackBerry, we know these tools exist. We have chosen not to use them, though. We want to make sure that we have our eyes on those resumes. Again, I think someone mentioned it earlier about that human element. We understand everyone's a human. They're not just a sheet of paper, right? So we do have a recruiting team that focuses on those applications. When it comes to like, how do they go about that? We match them with a senior recruiter, and then we also match them with a hiring leader. So we get straight from the hiring leaders what must-haves are and then what preferences are. So what we're really looking for when it comes to those resumes are they reach the must-haves. So for us, a software developer, you must have some type of C# experience. We don't care if it's a personal project. We don't care if it's in classroom work, but we code in C#, so we want to see that you've worked with C#. We understand Java's transferable. We understand C++ is a good, but at the end of the day, when you're up against, for our internship program, about 18,000 other individuals, if you don't have that, you are going to get the decline email, right? So to Maddie's point earlier about matching the job description, another plug there. So yeah, we do look for really what those must-haves are per team. And then those like nice-to-haves and things like that, that's something that can be figured out later down the line. We want to make sure you have that first chance to get to talk to us about your experience.
Awesome. And Marianne, what are you seeing from your companies in terms of how they hire? They use your platform obviously to secure the roles, but I would think with a startup, it's more likely that a person not only wants to see the resume and application itself, but like wants to get a real connection with this person because they may have a smaller team. But what are your thoughts there?
Yeah. I want to echo Maddie and Alyssa's point. Also really refreshing to hear that both of your organizations are also prioritizing the human side. I think that a lot of tech companies are realizing that tech products that were meant to make the resume scraping process easier are not. And so I know that that's a huge fear, and I know that a lot of companies are still using it, but the companies you want to work for, even the big companies like where Maddie and Alyssa are leaning into going back to reviewing each application. I think the first thing I said today is make yourself human online. Another really great way to stand out is like, because we're in this digital space and you can't meet people in person, like don't hesitate to record a video of yourself. Also, if you don't have, like record a video of yourself and express why you're interested in that role. I mean, I know that when I'm helping people review applications, if someone puts in a link to a video of them describing why they would be great for that role, I'm going to click it. I'm going to watch your video. And at that point, I've already spent more time on your application than I may have on someone else's. Another point is when you especially when you're entering your career as a student. You don't only come with skills, but you also want to learn. That's why you are exploring this job. So if you feel like you do not have the experience in one area that company is asking for experience in, express why it is that is your learning opportunity and what you are going to do to ensure that you learn that skill fast. Because that's how, for me, when I was first starting in my career, instead of always saying, I don't know that, I would say, I don't know that, but I'm going to go home and learn it. And I'm going to make sure that that's my priority. And I'm excited to learn that. And I hope you're excited for me to take that on. One other thing I wanted to flag are two awesome Canadian tech startup companies that both are helping with resume building and crafting your message. They both sort of used to cater to companies, but they have opened up a lot of their tech products to job seekers right now during COVID. One of them is Thrive. It's thrivemycareer.com. What they actually do is help tech companies transitioning talent out of their business to help them prepare for their next career. But they've opened up their software to allow anyone who's job seeking right now to use their resources to think through what your resume should look like. And then the other one is plum.io. I think both are based in the Kitchener-Waterloo region. And another thing I wanted to plug back to or reiterate, Noah, that you mentioned earlier, I left Toronto 3 months ago. I think that living in the Windsor-Essex area and being able to work for any tech company, like that is super ideal. I think that we're going to see a huge shift towards places that have a lower cost of living and way higher quality of life, like Windsor-Essex versus Toronto. Like, I honestly don't want to go back right now.
Well, she's really going for that Windsor-Essex Economic Development Corporation job. So shout out to Marianne. But Marianne, so Yvonne Pilon is the president and CEO of WEtech Alliance. She's in the room with me, 6 feet apart or more. And I looked over when you said that. I'm like, write that down, right? Like, that's a huge, important thing that they're trying to really, really push. So thanks for that. And again, right, if you can work from anywhere, pick somewhere where you like to be at, right? You know, you don't want to work from somewhere that's terrible. Okay, sorry, if anybody's from Toronto, I'm not saying you or Toronto is terrible. I'm going to get a letter, but you want to work where you will want to, where you will enjoy the area. Okay, I have one more question, but before I do, I saw something that came in that I really want to flag, including a passport size photo in an application or a resume or anything. I think it's a big no. Marianne, you're shaking your head no. And Alyssa, if you wanted to share some insight, what do you think about that, including a picture in the resume? I think it's a no, but I'm not the recruiter.
Yeah, I'm with all the head shakes no. It takes up room where you could be putting something else there. And at the end of the day, that does not affect our decision whatsoever. From over here in the US, we call it EEOC, but essential that equal opportunity. We're not going to hire you based on your profile picture or whatever it is. So no.
Yeah, I want to just make sure that's we don't need to go around the whole panel. That's a resounding enough for me. I just wanted to make sure that's clear because I don't want anybody to apply with the picture on the resume. So let's squash that right away. Okay, my last question before we get some final thoughts from each of you. Okay, so I've done all the work to get the job. I've done a really great job on my resume. I personalized it. I made it human. And I did the whole thing. I did the interview. I killed the interview, and now I have the job. But I have to work remotely, and I've never worked remotely before. What are the tips that you all have on working remotely, doing it well, and making sure I don't get fired in 2 weeks for being very unproductive? Maddie, why don't you kick us off?
I think that my best advice would be set up a space, like set up an office space. Don't work off of your couch in front of the TV. It just set yourself up for success. So I know my kind of rule of thumb is every day I'm not working in pajamas. Like I get up every day and I get ready, not ready for the office, but get ready, sit at my desk. So I kind of have that mentality that, okay, this is work. I'm at work. I'm in work mode. And then just having a routine throughout the day has just really changed everything for me. And I think it's kept me good throughout this is just knowing that, okay, like every day I've got this, and this scheduled. It's kept me planned, right? So just setting yourself up for success and getting into that work mentality every day is so, so important. And
Awesome.
asking questions when you have them. Just because you're remote doesn't mean you can't ask questions. Open a line of communication. I know my team right now, we had a student start in oh, nope, I'm way ahead of myself now. We had a student start in June. We have Skype chats, like a Skype chat open all day, so that if she has any questions, like we're right there to help, and we'll jump on a call if we need to. But just because you're remote doesn't mean you're losing that team aspect. So really make sure that you're asking questions that you have and kind of taking advantage of this new or open communication that you're going to get.
Awesome. Marianne, insights you have on working remotely?
Yeah, I'm not going to echo too much. Everything Maddie said, I agree with. Wake up every day. When you would wake up as if you were commuting to work, you all of a sudden have borrowed time when you're not commuting. Consider like stretching or reading the news or listening to a podcast or getting outside. Get dressed. I mean, I worked remotely last year for an entire year prior to this. I love remote work. And there was a while there that I was wearing my pajama pants, and it really does make a difference when you change, you brush your teeth, you get ready for the day, sit down, have that workspace, commit to it. I also think like it is harder to connect remotely to your colleagues, especially if you are a student or an intern. Do not assume that just because you are a student, you are not part of the team. Just because you are there for a short period of time does not mean you are not part of the team. Ask questions, don't be afraid, reach out, ask for people's time to get to know them and to better understand their work. It is going to make a massive difference for you and your success in working remotely if you can connect with your colleagues and make sure that you take the time to do it. It's not a burden to everyone on your team to help you succeed and learn in this role.
Awesome. And Alyssa, insights from you on working remotely since you've been starting to now do this for a while.
Yeah, so I think it's been over 80 days or something like that where we've been doing this. And for me, normally my role throughout the year is about 7-8 months remote, and not necessarily working from home, but working from hotels or jumping on a flight to the next university, wherever it may be. I've come to realize I don't like working from home during these months, because right now is when I would actually be in the office with the interns and getting to see them. And so I think it's okay to have that conversation with yourself of, this is good for now because this is the situation that we're in, but it's also good to know when you start thinking about that next job, okay, do I even want a remote role? Do I want a hybrid role? Do I want, like start to take kind of, I guess, notes on how you feel about it and what you enjoy about it, and then do those little things that do work for you. So I'm going to put on like jeans every single day. That doesn't work for me, but I did go out and buy a massive whiteboard because our office space has a whiteboard, and that just makes me feel more comfortable. One of my teammates, he wears shoes throughout the day, like in his house. That's his thing to make him feel like he's at work. So find those little things that work for you, but to their point, just make it a routine, and then also just keep notes on how you do feel about work from home for the future.
That's a great point too, because eventually we will get out of this COVID-19 through a vaccine or through some kind of herd immunity or some kind of miracle treatment, and things will start to go back to partially, I think, the how they were before in some regards, especially relating to work. So while you've been doing remote work, and a lot of you, pretty much all of you, remote school right now, how have you felt about that? And take some time to check in and say, is that something I want to do? If it is, we've got space in here in Windsor for you to do it. I've got to plug it again. No, but it's true. It's very, so think about how you feel about that. So that's all great insights. So I want to summarize really briefly, though, and then get last comments from each of you before we wrap up, because we're a little over time, but I knew I would be. So we'll share. I think the biggest pieces were passion piece, making sure that you are marketing yourself in a way that aligns with not only the role, but aligns with the company, right? So taking a look at those strategic priorities and making sure you're aligning with those. Selling yourself, super important. All the work that you've done, if you've done volunteer stuff, if you've done extracurricular stuff, if you worked at a grocery store, if you've worked at doing whatever, making sure you're including that and taking into account the transferable skills that are available to do this. taking advantage of the tools that are available to you. Prospect is a great one that you can use. The help list is a great one that you can use to be able to find these remote work opportunities and finding these vetted opportunities that come from companies that are not going to take advantage of you at the signing date. They're actual companies, they're legit companies, you're doing real work, and taking advantage of the opportunities that have been made available through COVID-19, like Mosaic. This Mosaic program where you can work for businesses and do Shopify, make a Shopify e-commerce store, that wouldn't have happened before this. And it is something that was needed, though, right? These are in-person bricks and mortar companies that needed to be brought online before this even happened. But that wouldn't have never happened without COVID-19. And yes, we recognize that it's a global pandemic and it's something that's been very unfortunate for many, many people. But we are being able to innovate through that, I am hoping. So, I think that would be awesome for people to take advantage of. And then, of course, once we are working remotely, let's establish a routine. Let's still dress professionally, somewhat professionally, if that works for you. Let's get our massive whiteboard if that's what works for you. I've got 2 of them in here. We're doing that, finding ways that make work still feel like you're in a workplace, you're still functioning, but then having that separation. So I actually wrote a blog for WEtech Alliance that's going to be released through a remote work campaign that's got a lot of tips for both employers and employees on how to work remotely successfully. So be sure to check that out when it comes out. Yvonne will share that for us. And any last words then from our panelists? Any last insights or things that you wanted to share that you just thought of that you didn't share through the panel? Maddie, we'll start with you.
No, just pretty much thanks for having us. And I think my words to leave it on would just be like, go home and add that you element to your resume. And if you're not sure what to add, talk to a friend. Me and my friends always swap resumes. Like I did one of my friend's resumes last night, just taking a look at it. Well, hey, we worked together 5 years ago. You didn't even talk about this, and that's important. Get somebody to appear to review it or to really you into your resume or help you add that element of you, the human element. Yeah,
exactly. Marianne, your insights, last comments, final thoughts.
I actually, just thought of this as we were talking. Remember that your resume is a PDF document that lives on your computer. Your digital identity is so important. So don't just produce a resume that you send to people. Think about how you're representing yourself online that makes you accessible to so many more different employers and people. Like, definitely put effort into your LinkedIn. Don't just put job titles, but put details below each job title or each piece of experience of what you experienced. Take your resume and put it on the internet so that you don't need to wait always to send something to someone in order for them to be interested in what you're up to.
Awesome. And Alyssa, insights from you, final thoughts.
Yeah, I would just say, Marianne mentioned earlier, job searching is a job in itself. But for anybody on this call, every person on here is essentially an ally, right? Whether it's Noah, whether it's Maddie, myself, Marianne. Maddie and I might not have a job for you, but we're happy to talk about what could potentially get you a job one day, right? If that's a quick LinkedIn message. I think you mentioned Joanna's on here, right? She knows all the and everything that's going on over there. So I would just really say it's a tough process. It's a personal process. Sometimes it can be a little bit heavy, but there are so many people out there who want to help you, who are going through it themselves too, and they might even need an ear. So just really consider all the allies who you have around you, especially on this phone call.
Awesome. And speaking of allies, I see Dr. Ziad Kopti is on the line. He's the director and professor, School of Computer Science. Dr. Kopti, I've made you a panelist. If you want to unmute and share any quick thoughts as we wrap up, if you can hear us or unmute. I made it without telling him. Okay, I don't know if we've got him, and I don't know if he's even set up, so we didn't plan this clearly. Anyways, I want to go ahead and thank our panelists for their time today. Really great insights from both Maddie, Marianne, and Alyssa, representing some great local and global organizations. And I'm really grateful for all of you there. Dr. Copty just messaged me, just says he wants to say thank you for your insights to the students of global computer science. So that's an additional thank you. I want to thank WEtech Alliance and Windsor-Essex Economic Development Corporation for putting this together. I want to thank BlackBerry for letting us use their WebEx platform to host this and host all of you. Shout out to BlackBerry. And again, thanks to Prospect and Rock Central for sending us some amazing individuals to speak on their organizations and what they're doing. Students, feel free to reach out to these folks on LinkedIn. They're there. They're allies to assist you. And take a look very shortly soon. We're going to see that great remote work campaign from the Windsor-Essex Economic Development Corporation, WEtech Alliance, Workforce Windsor-Essex, and some other great community partners that are going to be able to give you some resources on doing everything that we talked about today. So we're not just talking the talk, we're walking the walk here in Windsor. So really excited to be able to do that. To help you all have an amazing day, an amazing weekend. The weather looks pretty solid. Today, it's going to be probably a hot one, so get out in the pool if you can, and stay safe as well is really important consideration during all this, now that the majority of us has been able to move to stage 2. So again, thank you to our panelists, thank you to our students, and thanks to our community groups putting this on. Have a great day, folks.